Hello again. Welcome back to Millennial Christian Conversations. I'm David. This is
Garnation.
Tim.
and we're doing a continuation on Is Suicide an Unforgivable Sin? Alright, I think last time we left off, Timothy was talking about people with mental problems like depression as a reason for committing suicide.
Because I don't see a sane person committing suicide. I mean, it gotta be something wrong.
I remember.
with
I
that
remember.
mental.
Where how we got to that point. So I think David's scenario that he brought up, one of y'all, somebody brought up a scenario, or like if you know automatically if you committed suicide that you're gonna go to heaven, and you're Christian, then you're just gonna commit suicide so you can go to heaven.
A point that I brought up was how come Christians aren't just committing suicide to get to heaven, and he's I guess that's when he brought up only people
crazy.
with, but I wouldn't agree with him that only people with mental disease. And matter of fact, if you understand what heaven is supposed to be like and what heaven is supposed to be, and that and how beautiful it is, and how there's no more pain, no more strife. I think that's a sane thing to do would be to get away from here as soon as possible.
No.
I think that's completely sane.
But if you're enjoying your life and you're living your life and it's fulfilling, like just because there's something greater on the other side doesn't mean you would want to rush to end something that you're enjoying. Like even if like a certain
the only reason you don't want to rush is because of the doubt.
Have you, all three of you, let's say whatever your favorite meal is, have you ever sat down and enjoyed your favorite meal?
Sure.
Yes.
Do you rush through it to get to your dessert?
No.
Just because there's something better, I'm assuming the dessert is better, doesn't mean you rush through it to get to it.
Take my time.
I mean,
Enjoy my meal.
even if he's which I'm talking about you. Even if you say that, because we know that heaven is better than what's on earth, but that still don't mean I want to die.
Yeah, but the life on earth is not always your favorite meal.
True. And that's why people commit suicide. First of all, that's an assumption that people are not committing suicide based on the fact they believe they're going to heaven. That's an assumption. There has been, in fact, and I know y'all are too young to know about that. I'm really too young. It was during my lifetime, but I'm really too young. There was a false prophet named Jim Jones who took thousands of black folk to Africa to commit mass suicide because they were going to heaven. And so it's happened.
Is that the guy that did the Kool-Aid thing?
Yes, it's happened. So people have decided because they believe they're going to heaven that I'm ready to go. I don't want to stay here. So that has actually happened. I do agree that there is an indication, though, when people commit suicide, that there is some issue, whether it be psychological or emotional. There's some issue that clouds their judgment. I had some questions based on the conversation that she didn't answer, and you all answer or tell me what your thoughts are about it, and then we can go from there. First one is, can you renounce your faith?
Yes.
I think
Okay, so tell me how that would happen. Give me a scenario or an example of how someone renounces their faith.
I used to work with a lady. Um, she was. She said she used to be a Christian or whatever, and but she was. I guess something happened. And something happened, and she became homeless. She was out. She was out on the streets, and and she was seeing a lot of just bad things happen. And I guess she said forget the church, forget God. She didn't believe he was real anymore. She didn't think that she didn't want to believe that or she didn't believe that he was doing things anymore, or that he had he couldn't have had some divine intervention into her life because of how terrible it was going. And so she said she no longer believed. And after that, she said things started to get better for her.
Okay. Anybody else have?
I mean, I don't have any personal example like that.
Yeah.
But I would say it's the same thing. Though you say, well, I don't believe in God anymore. I don't believe in Jesus. I don't believe in anything like that anymore. And I'm gonna just live my life how I want to. I think that's the sentiment is the same.
Okay. Donish, anything different?
I remember seeing a movie. I can't remember what the movie was called, but I tell David all the time when I was at ETBU, I had to take a class called God in the Movies, and in this particular movie, it was about spreading Christianity in Asia or whatever. And it was like Christianity in Asia at this time was like unforgivable. Like it was like they would put you to death if they found out you were a Christian. And like this group of people, they were trying to some Catholics that came from Spain to Asia to try to spread Christianity, but they had to do it in secret or whatever. And I guess if you got caught, they would try to force you to renounce your faith. And I guess instead of killing you or punishing you, but I guess if they caught you so many times, you know, that you would get a harsher punishment. But there was one guy in particular, you know, he continued to like bounce back and forth. Like, so I guess he had a struggle with, I guess, if he wanted to renounce his faith or not. But there were lots of people in the movie that, I mean, in this situation, they were forced to renounce their faith. I don't think it was necessarily the decision that they wanted to do. But in this time in the movie, it's something that they had to do. They felt they had to do. So, it's the only thing I don't know.
This would then be my question to any of those. I understand the people in the movie a little better, but the question is still the same. Was it actually faith in the first place?
It's a good question.
There is a difference in believing and having faith. Being a believer, because you were raised and taught. People who are taught by their parents typically believe, because they believe what their parents teach them. That doesn't mean they have faith. And so they could have been walking around calling themselves Christians for 20, 30, 40 years. That doesn't mean they have faith. The truth is, and that's why you see people like Stephen in the Bible who are willing to be stoned, people like Paul willing to go to jail, and all throughout history to this day, still in countries like China and some other Eastern countries where people are willing to die rather than say they don't believe in Jesus Christ. Those are people with faith. And they understand that renouncing their faith is something that's that is worse than death for a spiritual person. And so, you know, there have been Christians persecuted all throughout world history because they believed in Jesus Christ. So, I don't know. I don't know. Let me say I don't know. I don't believe, but I don't know if it's actually possible to renounce your faith, what you actually have faith in. I don't know if that's possible. I'd have to go back and see whether it was actual faith, because faith means it's not based on what I see. So the lady who saw all the trouble and based her decision on that means that wasn't faith. The people who are facing punishment, because now they're focused on punishment, decide I'm not, that means that's not faith. Faith is not based on what you, according to Hebrews, that definition that most faith is the substance of things hoped for, evidence things not seen. It's not based on what you see and what's going on around you. And so if that changes it, it wasn't faith in the first place. It was said or seen in the conversation that there was a difference made as it pertained to sins. Is there a difference in sins? Is one sin worse than another?
No.
I mean, sin.
I feel like we place
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I feel like we place a more severity on different sins, but as far as biblically, I'm not sure.
I know in different places in the Bible, God talks about, or the Bible talks about, for example, homosexuality. He calls it an abomination specifically. He talks. It talks in a different light about certain sins.
I don't know if I would say it talks in a different light. Lay some different words to get the point across. But I mean, sin is still sin, regardless. Wrong is still wrong. A lie is still a lie. No matter how white we say it is, it's still a lie. I mean, it's the same thing.
I get that what you're saying, but I know that the punishment for all sin is the same. It take the same sacrifice to heal all sin. It take the same I guess all of that is the same, but like I said, the Bible does talk, it seems like in more severity about certain sins in a couple places.
Okay. Interesting enough, or interesting that seems like people only see that one sin, and it's a sin, as bad as it is, but that homosexuality is the only sin God calls an abomination. We just talked about, Donisha just referenced a movie where people who were put in situations where their life was threatened, or they were threatened with some kind of punishment, would renounce their faith so they wouldn't have to go through it. The Bible also says that when it comes to Christianity, that cowardice is an abomination to God, and several others. But and so I think based on our experiences and who we are as people, there are certain things. Cause I can think of a few sins that are, or at least a few. Yeah, well, I mean they're sins, but a few actions that would be much worse in my mind than suicide. Since we're talking about suicide, but that was one question about there being a difference in sin. And I'm glad you mentioned that again about the penalty that has been and the price that's been paid for sin. Before I get to that question, let me ask this one: Where does the desire to live come from?
Where did it come from?
It's something God put in us in creation.
Okay, so is that a natural thing? Is it a spiritual thing? Is it
I'd have to say it's a natural thing. Because I mean, even non-believers want to live.
I would say
And live as long as possible.
I would say it's natural. Because not just humans, but animals want to live as well. And that's another of God's creation. So I believe it's natural. That's something that God puts in us at the time we're born. So it's just natural. I mean, I don't know if I could say it's spiritual. So I wouldn't say it, but I might be convinced. I don't know.
so? There is something in every person that causes them to want to live. All right. Next question is: so those people who are Christians or who accept Christ. I think in part 1 there was a scenario given about sharing Christianity with people, and person accepts Christ genuinely, but then decides to go out and commit suicide because of some internal struggle or turmoil or whatever. And I guess my question is, when a person genuinely accepts Christ, do they find peace in Jesus?
I think that's I think that's something that you have to work for, or work towards, not for, but towards. Because even when you accept Jesus, you still have that eternal struggle. So I think that's something that, as you grow, is something that you come to realize that and come into, if that makes sense, as you grow as a Christian in your maturity.
Yeah, I agree with Brother Lewis on that one. I mean, I think about my test. I wasn't like overcome with some feeling of peace or serenity or anything like that, but it was something as I learned more and understood more. I had peace that came from my understanding of how God operates and how He is.
I agree with both of those things.
So then, a person who then they're given that same scenario, then the person who receives Christ would have to assume, I guess, that they could find peace in death before they would get it in life.
In that scenario, yeah, I guess so.
I would say soon. I mean, it's possible. I mean, it entirely depends on them, though.
You talking about the scenario you brought up? Somebody got saved and then killed themselves. I believe they would have to think that to do that. Yeah, that would be the thought process.
Well, I guess if they assume that, then that's just some faulty and impatient thinking. I mean, sure we find peace in death, but you can find peace in life too. So So it's just some impatience. What it seemed to me.
I think in the scenario as well as in the answer, this is my observation, is that we haven't, and they would have not come to a complete understanding of what it actually means to be saved. And it's a difficult thing for those of us who are raised in church. It's difficult for us to get it sometimes because we've been hearing the gospel and the gospel story all our lives. And so we don't really understand or don't understand, at least initially, what it means to surrender. The only reason a person doesn't have peace is because they haven't surrendered to Christ. And so even though it took y'all some time, if you think about it, the more you surrendered, the more peace you have. So if it's somebody who gets saved, or who makes the confession, because there is an argument that if you haven't surrendered, you're not saved. So if it's someone who made the confession but has not surrendered, so their mind still in turmoil, then that's not on Jesus. It's on them. Because that Jesus offers us peace. Okay? And so that's really part of, I think really is the basis of what suicide is.
All right, thank you for watching, I guess, another episode of Millennial Christian Conversation. Please follow us, share the link, and if you have any comments, let us know. And if you have any questions that you want or discussions that you want us to go over, leave it in the comments and we can try to discuss that at one of our meetings. Thank you.